Trump and Chicago. The two have historically been a combustible combination. This Monday, we learned that the former president and current Republican nominee would be flying to town Wednesday to take questions at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. It was ostensibly an opportunity to reach out to black voters who have traditionally voted overwhelmingly for the Democratic Party ticket and rejected Trump. Things didn't exactly go according to plan.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
And instead of facing a friendly crowd and reading off a teleprompter, Trump was forced to answer tough and sometimes uncomfortable questions by reporters Rachel Scott, Kadia Goba, and Harris Faulkner. When asked about his opponent, Kamala Harris, Trump uttered comments that have turned the presidential race on its head this week, reverting to a familiar strategy of bringing up race.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? I respect either one. I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black.
Harris has long identified as black, attending a historically black college and being a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. She has long talked about her Indian-born mother and Jamaican-born father. The packed room of black journalists and commentators were, for the most part, unimpressed.
You're a presidential candidate and you talk to people like that? How do you run a country when you are racist? Those are racist statements that he said to those young ladies today.
What this did was embarrass NABJ, because we gave a platform to that which we know was a freak show and an absolute catastrophe. That's what that was.
I think that this format lends itself to the mass production of disinformation and misinformation.
Amid the skeptics were a handful of supporters, however, struggling to defend the former president's performance. Do you think he was disrespectful to the hosts and moderators up there at all?
No, I think that she was disrespectful to him, extremely disrespectful to him. The way that she made a leading statement, again, she didn't greet him, she didn't thank him, she just came out of the gate being very defensive or being very aggressive.
How are you going to best support the black community via policy? That is the conversation that should be having here. And I think to some extent it wasn't able to be had, especially in the way that it should have been, because of some of the divisiveness that came out from the onset of the conversation.
Either way, the convention hall and the country heard Trump's remarks loud and clear. But according to NABJ President Ken Lemon, the event almost didn't happen at all. Lemon says he and Trump were in a standoff over a decision to fact-check the former president in real time.
There was a fight on not to have us fact-check him in real time. I went backstage and we stood our ground. I went back and I talked to the women who were going to be on that stage, and I said, I'm going to protect you. You're not walking out on that stage without us compromising a single thing we said we're going to do in this process. They said he won't take the stage if you're going to fact check. I said, well, then he won't take the stage.
Those moderators, Fox News conservative host Harris Faulkner said the situation was made more complicated because of audio problems. But she says, love or hate Trump, it was at least a show.
Whatever was going on, the audience that had been so critical of this event, some of them threatening not to come, those 1,100 seats, those people never moved. Those people standing in the back, those people never moved. So people were riveted to see a voice perhaps here at NABJ that they don't normally hear. And that's the point of journalism. We ask the questions. We're not activists. I was kind of bummed when journalists are saying they should rescind the offer and go, like, so what are we then? We can talk to anybody. So even with the audio issues and, whatever, I'm glad we did it.
Now, it's hard to say what else was accomplished on Wednesday. Trump did what he does best, draw attention to himself, be it positive or negative. The conversation also thrust the NABJ into the center of the national conversation, but it's caused a painful rift among its members, many of whom believe they should never have invited the former president to begin with. Now, Trump has since doubled down on attacks on Harris's race, echoing previous dubious efforts to sow doubt on former President Obama's U.S. citizenship. It's a strategy that thrusts the country into painful and divisive arguments about race and identity. But there are indications right now that the strategy isn't working. Some of his own supporters are recommending that Trump tone it down. And if Trump does indeed lose to Harris in November, the campaign might look back to this week in Chicago as a flashpoint where things went very wrong. Chicago, while not in a swing state, once again comes to play a pivotal role in a national presidential election, and will again in less than 3 weeks as it hosts the much-anticipated Democratic National Convention. And that's our opening shot.
Coming up on Paris on Politics.
Tonight, an exclusive with Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling, how he plans to keep the city safe during the DNC. Plus, inside the deal that brought a $500 million quantum computing campus to Chicago. And taxes for me, but not for thee. The Chicago Teachers Union wants more taxes to fund CPS, but tries to lower its own tax bill. All that and more next on Paris on Politics.
This is Paris on Politics from Fox 32 Chicago.
Welcome to this edition of Paris on Politics, where we take you behind the headlines and beyond the spin. Consider the Trump visit this week a dry run for the main event. The security plans are set, the hotels are booked, and the Democratic nomination for president is all sewn up. Now Chicago waits for the political world to arrive as the DNC officially kicks off August 19th. Also ready to go, protesters who have already unveiled plans to start demonstrating in the Loop that Sunday. So how will law enforcement keep the peace, and what does all of this mean for Chicago residents? Joining us with all of the details are Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling and U.S. Secret Service Special Agent in Charge Derek Meyer, the two best guys to have to talk about this. The date is 2 weeks away now. Superintendent, you ready to go?
Absolutely. I mean, just in short, we are ready. As you mentioned, we found out about this over a year ago. We've been training and preparing since then, and our department is ready and willing to go. I feel confident in the Chicago Police Department, our officers, the leadership in our department. I feel confident in the partnership that we have with the Secret Service, our other federal agencies, state and county police officers, and everyone who's a partner in this. I feel very confident that we'll have a successful and safe DNC.
And Derek, you know, you've had to put together this plan amid turmoil in the Secret Service. The director resigned 2 weeks ago. How has that impacted the plans here?
It doesn't impact us at all. Like Larry said, we've been planning this for over a year. We were just talking about how fast that went by. We started planning April of 2023, so over a year. But the fact is, losing the director doesn't impact the security plan of the Democratic National Convention.
Superintendent Snelling, there's news this week that outside police departments are going to be here basically to lock down infrastructure during the DNC. Tell us what that means exactly and what these non-CPD personnel are going to be doing.
Well, what it means is that CPD, we will be able to free up our officers. So depending on the number of officers that we're provided through mutual aid, we will have them in locations that where it won't be necessary for them to take police action within our city. They'll be serving more of a security purpose. That doesn't mean that they won't have police powers. However, that'll free up our Chicago police members to respond to anything that's happening across the city. So I just believe it's a safer way of making sure that our mutual aid partners are not put in a position that's compromising to them or that compromises the city. So our officers know what to do. They're trained to respond to things within the city, and we want to make sure that our officers are responding to those things. At the same time, all of our mutual aid officers will be trained, either 8 to 12 hours of training on our policies and what's expected of them.
And I know there might be some worry because of what happened at the RNC where an out-of-town officer interacted with a Milwaukee resident and had shot and killed them. So that is a concern. I want to talk about the security perimeter. Let's take a look at that map of the security perimeter. So there's the zone around the United Center that's in red. Derek Meyer, what does it exactly mean, the zone in red? What does that mean for the folks that live there and the folks that want to go to the United Center?
Well, the zone in red, to access that, you will be screened, and you would also need a credential or a ticket to enter that area.
Mm-hmm. And how about yellow?
Yellow is our vehicle screening area, so vehicles will be screened to come in that area, but the public will be able to walk freely in that area.
Superintendent Snelling, how will those areas be secured for the people that want to get in them? What's that going to mean in terms of going through security checkpoints?
Well, everything outside of that perimeter, the Chicago Police Department will be responsible for. We're working closely with the Secret Service to make sure that residents in those locations are not affected in a way. Obviously, there'll be some challenges, but we're going to make sure that residents can get to and from those locations. But we have to maintain security there. We have to make sure that it's secure and safe for everyone who's going in and out of there. So Chicago Police Department will have that locked down.
We know protesters that plan to march and demonstrate during that week. Do either of you have any active intelligence of any kinds of security threats at this point?
At this point, no. But what I will say is that we keep up with our intel. We communicate with our federal partners on a regular basis. Joint Terrorism Task Force, keeps us informed on any possible threats that come across. And if we see those, if we find any threats, we'll make adjustments to make sure that we're on top of those also.
All right, I want to show you a clip from a protest organizer named Andy Thayer, who says he and several groups are getting ready to protest on the Sunday before in the Loop. Let's take a look.
People are extremely upset, and that really is, for all the talk about what's the similarities between 1968 and 2024? It's really these ongoing wars that are being conducted by Democratic Party presidents that have got a lot of young people, especially young people from the Palestinian American community, which is huge here in Chicago, quite upset.
When we have people who want to march, they want to protest, it's their right. It's their First Amendment right. And as a police agency, our job is to protect people's constitutional rights. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that people who want to have their voices heard get to do so. But we want to make sure that they do it peacefully. We want to make sure that they do it safely. And as I said before, as long as it doesn't escalate into vandalism, it doesn't escalate into violence, I don't foresee any problems, as long as people just want to have their voices heard. But we won't tolerate violence. We won't tolerate vandalism in the city. So we have two functions. We need to keep them safe while they protest, while they exercise their First Amendment rights. But we have a responsibility to the city of Chicago and the citizens here and all 77 neighborhoods to keep the city safe.
How did the leader of a small village become known as the worst mayor in America?
She cannot continue to intimidate and gangster her way through this.
From showy billboards and expensive police bodyguards to Vegas trips and retaliation allegations, we bring you an inside look into Mayor Tiffany Henyard and the drama in Dolton. Streaming now at Fox 32 on Fox Local. Search Fox Local on these streaming platforms. Download and watch today.
Derek Meyer, what about the area around McCormick Place where there'll be other convention activity and the Loop?
Again, the Secret Service supports everyone's ability to express their First Amendment rights. Obviously, an event of this magnitude, there's going to be protests. We've been preparing with the City of Chicago, Chicago Police Department, to ensure that those protests are peaceful and lawful.
And Superintendent, you mentioned you're not going to tolerate vandalism or any kind of law breaking. Will there be mass arrests if situations do get out of hand?
Well, we hope we don't have to go there. What we hope for is that people protest peacefully, they respect the law, and we don't have to engage in mass arrests. However, we are extensively trained in dealing with mass arrests. We have a new mass arrest policy, And based on that, if things escalate to a situation where we have to engage in a mass arrest, we will do so. I'm hopeful that we won't have to go there. I can't guarantee that that won't happen. But what I can guarantee you is that we're going to protect the city.
When you say mass arrest policy, what do you mean by that?
Well, we have a policy on when we have to engage in multiple arrest situations where we can't resolve this at a level through de-escalation. So if it calls for us to make arrests, to bring peace and restore peace to a situation, then that's what we'll do. But we want to make sure that we have training around that. We have trained our officers on it so that there's a clear understanding of what those policies are.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about ShotSpotter, and the mayor has kept the contract through the DNC and through the end of the year. As I understand, there aren't ShotSpotter cameras right at the United Center, but will there be other surveillance, mobile surveillance, cameras, you know, kind of watching that scene? Is that going to be part of the tool?
So let me be clear. There's no such thing as a ShotSpotter camera. So because it's not a
detection system.
It's not a tool of surveillance. However, there's plenty of cameras, things of that nature to capture anything happening in that area. There will be plenty of security around the location.
Derek Meyer, can these plans change in the next 2 weeks, given, I don't know, things that happen across the country, as we saw right before the RNC, the former president gets shot in Pennsylvania?
We're always adapting. To say that, will the plan change? We're always trying to make things better. So to say that, can things change? Absolutely. There won't be any major changes. I mean, that perimeter is set. Again, it's a whole of government approach. We've been establishing these security perimeters for the last 15 to 16 months, so there won't be any wholesale changes.
And Superintendent Snelling, you've said that your job is to keep the entire city safe. So how do you make sure there are enough resources for the neighborhoods for a typical summer weekend where there might be mass gatherings, there might be parties, and where we do see escalated gun violence?
This is true, and this is why it's important to understand, one, officer wellness. We know that to man those 4 days or the week, depending on how things unfold, that we're going to use canceled days off. We're going to extend some of the hours for officers so that we have enough manpower in the districts along with the area around the venues where the DNC is being held. Now, the reason I talk about wellness is because we want to make sure that our officers are not overly fatigued when dealing with situations like this. So we have not had the day off cancellations that we've had in the past for officers leading up to the event. So each district has a wellness plan in place for our officers as they work these extended hours. But we also have planning for each district just in case there's the possibility that civil unrest could unfold. So each district and each district commander has submitted a plan for this.
All right, so you've got this well thought out. You've worked on this for the better part of a year. Derek Meyer, Superintendent Larry Snelling, thanks for joining us. Best of luck over the next 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Paris.
Up next on Paris on Politics.
A quantum leap, how the state plans to turn an empty patch of lakefront into the technology hub of the future.
Discover Chicago's hidden gems and untold tales.
If you look up, odds are you're seeing our work.
Fox 32's photographers share the stories they've captured with you.
Fountain jet shoots up 150 feet. Our designers, the sky is their canvas.
Streaming now at Fox 32 on Fox Local. Download Fox Local on these streaming platforms and start watching. He's an Illinois sports legend.
Where I come from, it's about basketball, about getting back to the game.
From a historic championship run.
Y'all ain't just teammates, y'all brothers.
To training the next generation of ballers.
What was it like being on Sports Illustrated, the Jersey Pop photo?
They should have put our whole team on there.
CYD Brown is Chicago built.
Not scared of nothing, love challenges.
Streaming now at Fox 32 on Fox Local. Search Fox Local on these streaming platforms.
This swag we have in Chicago is we do it the best.
Governor Pritzker says he's a quantum geek. Not gigantic level of geek, but a geek about quantum computing. That's the futuristic computer technology that can solve the most complex equations in the universe 1 billion times over, quicker than Caleb Williams can flick his wrist. It's either going to be a game changer to solve the world's most complex problems, or it's going to birth Skynet. We hope the former, of course. And last week, Governor Pritzker announced a $500 million investment to turn the former U.S. Steel Southworks site on the South Lakefront into a giant quantum computing campus, with a company called PsiQuantum already on board. We spoke with the head of the state's business development wing, Intersect Illinois, about what went into this deal. But first, I asked John Atkinson, what exactly is quantum?
Think about quantum computing. It has the capacity, because of using quantum physics and very detailed technology with a very unique structure, to be able to do computations that classical computing just cannot do. So if you think about the kinds of things that quantum computing can do, it can make calculations in a matter of seconds that classical computing would take months or sometimes years, and maybe never even get to the solution. So it really takes the ability to look at very, very complex problems, climate, financial security, fraud, pharma, life sciences, disease markers, and will have just dramatic impact on the way that we live every day, because of its capacity to solve problems that are really unsolvable right now.
And tell me what went into this deal to create this quantum campus and to get a tenant already at the Southworks site.
So essentially, we've been looking at this idea of a quantum research park for a couple of years. The governor's had a vision for that for some time. We then started working with, because Chicago and Illinois has a very robust quantum ecosystem already. We have the University of Chicago, University of Illinois Champaign, we have the Quantum Exchange. A lot of money has been spent in Foresight, sort of laying the foundation for our quantum credibility. And we've got the greatest scientists in the world right here with the national labs, Fermi and Argonne as well. So we've got a really good ecosystem. We then started to attract interest from a couple of companies. PsiQuantum is a company that we've been working with from a business development standpoint for almost a year. And they made a pro-Illinois decision because they wanted to be part of our vision and part of our research park. And so it really married together an opportunity with PsiQuantum with our vision for this quantum research park at the right time. And we then started down a site selection process with Psi, and we ended up selecting a fantastic site, and we will start construction really, really soon.
And as I understand, the state is going to make a $500 million investment in this site. Given all the demands on the state, why is this a smart investment for taxpayers?
Great question. So essentially, this is $500 million of bonded capital that will go into this particular site. And it's an investment in an industry that will be transformative and that will be able to create thousands and thousands of jobs. And the reason why we're making this investment is because we have lost out on prior opportunities. For example, the internet was essentially invented here with the first commercial browser, Netscape, by engineers at the University of Illinois.
So Al Gore was in Chicago when he was doing that, huh?
Apparently, yeah. And then the semiconductor, the LED, all of these were actually invented here by University of Illinois and other researchers and scientists. But the jobs ended up going to the coasts. So creating this ecosystem where you've got the ability for different companies, startups, researchers. We now have DARPA that will be at the site from a national security standpoint. Big validation for what we're doing. They want to test the various quantum technologies that are out there because we want to win the race with China on quantum. And so it really sort of, this investment the state is making is really saying, you know what? We believe this is going to be a technology that we are going to be able to master and own leadership on here in Illinois. We want to make sure the jobs stay here this time. So we're going to make the investments necessary to have that happen over a period of the next 5 to 10 years.
Taxes for thee, but not for me. That about sums up the Chicago Teachers Union philosophy when it comes to funding Chicago public schools. We know about their very public demand for $1 billion more in state money for the school system, but the bulk of CPS funding comes from property taxes, and we reported exclusively this week that CTU is trying to save money by slashing its property tax bill in half, leaving others to pick up the tab. Documents show the teachers union attempting to appeal the Cook County assessor's $19 million appraisal of its property, an estimated property tax bill of $1 million. An appraiser retained by CTU says they think the value should be less than half of that, at $9.2 million. That would mean a property tax bill cut in half and around $275,000 less to Chicago public schools based on current rates. This comes as CTU is in the midst of heated negotiations on a new contract, asking for as high as 9% raises. CTU has also repeatedly said the state owes CPS $1 billion more in taxpayer money. The libertarian-leaning think tank Illinois Policy Institute, which has long been critical of CTU, says the union's ask reeks of hypocrisy.
The CTU right now is asking for more than $1 billion from Springfield. They're asking for higher taxes on Chicago residents, and they're saying that everybody else needs to pay their fair share. What this appeal shows is that that is all just rhetoric, and that they themselves are trying to reduce their property tax bills.
Today, Governor Pritzker reiterated what he's said since the beginning, that state money to CPS is maxed out.
Well, I know that there are people who would like more. I'm one of them. And so let's go do that, but that is not something that can happen immediately during their negotiation. It is something that I think we should be working on every single year, and I've done that.
CTU President Stacey Davis Gates clapped back at Pritzker in a statement, alluding to governors of neighboring states who might be on a short list to be Kamala Harris's vice presidential nominee. Quote, "We're glad the presumptive nominees list includes governors in other states who have taxed the rich, placed social workers in every school from a central budget, and aggressively leaned into investing in education," Davis Gates says. Governor Pritzker should see those as examples to follow. Last week, the Chicago Board of Education unanimously approved a nearly $10 billion budget that does not take into account a new CTU contract. That means it'll likely have to come back and ask for more once that deal is reached. Civic Federation President Joe Ferguson says if that's the case, there's nowhere to turn for more money.
Where we have to go with all of this is for there to be a full disclosure of the overall financial situation, which will scare the bejesus out of most everybody because it should.
And that's our show for this week. The news is coming fast and furious, so stay up to date on everything with Fox 32 Chicago, and we'll see you right here next week. So long, everyone.
Chicago Sports Insiders.
I am so excited. This is gold right now. It's gold.
Streaming now on your smart TV at Fox 32 on Fox Local, your home of the Bears team.
Every Bears game will be must-see TV.
Following every step of a historic season.
Hardcore on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Download Fox Local and get in the game now.
Touchdown, Bears!
Search Fox Local on these streaming platforms and start watching today.